have released my very first memoir, my heart's work, my baby, Raising My Manchild. Raising My Manchild is now 2 months old as of the 15th of this month. And my goodness, I am so grateful, so blessed because I have gotten the most amazing response and feedback from those of you who have taken the opportunity to purchase the book and to read it. The book is doing very well. I'm hoping that it continues to do well and continue to exceed my expectation. But in the meantime, in between time, I wanted to take the opportunity to engage in my own text in a manner as if I was a reader and not the author. Before Raising My Man-Child opens any doors for me, opportunities to speak, not just to single moms, but to, women who may need empowerment, or women who may just need cheering and pep, or whatever the situation, whether it's a women empowerment conference or a single mom workshop, whatever the case may be. Before any of those opportunities open up, I wanted to experience the book as if I was the reader. And so I asked a few of my lifeline friends, my very good girlfriends, my college lifetime besties, to take a journey with me and participate in a book discussion slash book study of Raising My Man-Child, as we have done through COVID with other books, books from celebrities. And so I was extremely honored that they agreed to handle my book, my baby, in the same manner that we have done with some of these other, New York bestsellers. I asked for extremely raw feedback because I wanted to give them the opportunity to get feedback from me and insight from me about why I wrote the things that I wrote throughout the book. But then I also wanted to hear their feedback. I wanted their raw feedback. I wanted to experience what emotions it evoked for them, and what thoughts did it provoke for them, because of course, that's the reason why I wrote the book. I want to impact and change lives. I want to help people heal in their areas of struggle. I want to help people be encouraged, as they find their way through life. And so what better way to kind of get an upfront row seat to that than having my friends do this with me. Those who may be still thinking about buying the book, maybe this will give you a little more perspective about what you can expect from the book. And then I wanted to also see just how strong of a catalyst my book could serve as in discussion. Like, how far off the page can my words go? Will discussions remain just within the scope of the exact content that I talk about, or will it do what one of my prayers are that it will do, and that is for start the conversation of many topics, some hard topics, some taboo topics that we in our community don't always do so well with engaging in. And so I've broken up the recordings into chapters, but disclaimer, as things will happen, when we did the first discussion, we got, oh my God, it went so good. Like, it was amazing. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better, more in-depth discussion, conversation. Like, it was so good. And of course, over an hour of content, and there was no sound. And it was user error, so I couldn't be mad at nobody but myself. And so what we decided to do, instead of re-recording it and talking about those same chapters again the following week on our call, we decided to just continue on so that we can make sure that the discussions that we had would be fresh and would be as authentic as they could be. And so this first recording will be chapter 4. And then after chapter 4, I will continue to release. And then once we finish, we'll come back to the first 3 chapters that's recorded with no sound. And that way it would give us time to re-engage with that part of the book and have another authentic conversation and produce some sincere dialogue for me to show to my viewers. So without further ado, I hope that you enjoy the conversation, and please, please, please give me feedback. Drop down in the comments. Go follow me at Authortdotgrow on Instagram and Facebook. Let me know what you think. If you do not have the book yet, what are you waiting on? Like, when I tell you I got hope for sale, I'm telling you I got hope for sale. I mean that with every fiber of my being. Like, I cannot express to you how good, how real good this book is. And I truly believe with everything in me that God has done an amazing thing through me and through my words, and it will bless you, it will impact you, it will speak to you no matter what your situation is. You can get something from this book. In the meantime, check us out, listen to our discussion, and let me know what you think. And don't forget to come back for the other chapters.
All right. So we are starting with chapter 4, the release. And are we referring to last week, or are we just going to skip any referrals to last week's conversation? Because I had something that I wanted to go back to, and that was the village that we talked about. But we'll just save it for the next time. We'll save it for the next time, because that was big, because we said we'll come back to it.
I want you to go.
Okay. Anyway, let's just jump into today. Let me say that I love it when I can read like the beginning of a chapter and kind of foresee what's coming. Because when I was reading your first paragraph in this, I could see that it was not going to go the way that you thought it was going to go.
And it did not, as life most of the time don't.
It doesn't. But the biggest thing that you said was it was time for the pity party to be over and done with. It takes a lot to get out of that pity party stage, because I know I beat myself up all the time. And even when it comes to just trying to be a good mom, just knocking myself over the head, like, am I doing this right? Did I do this right? I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away from the first paragraph alone. How about you guys?
No, I would agree. I think now with today's day and age of everything going on, we have to give ourselves grace. And going, if we look back to being young moms or whatnot, we didn't. We took everything to heart and we're so hard on ourselves. And it's like, now, okay, if I didn't cook dinner like I had planned, I'm gonna give myself grace, because you just worked all day to help pay bills. So you have to give yourself grace. And we just have to remember that now and teach our children that as well. Give yourself grace in those moments where you feel like, okay, it's gonna be changed just like that. Because in reality, no.
It's amazing that you would bring up dinner. I'm sorry, ladies. Let me jump in real quick, because I beat myself up about forgetting to give my children vegetables.
Really?
Everybody don't eat vegetables every day. Like, I'm like, y'all have got to eat a salad, because I'm beating myself up, because I'm like, if I don't give it to you, who will?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to make those healthy choices at school. I know that's kind of like all on
the we had hamburger help and we ain't had no veggies today.
And they're going to be all right.
Some days it just don't work.
Listen, right. Dairy Queen, the grown man had KFC. I ate a pack of cereal.
I do that.
Yes.
Hungry. This is what it is. It wasn't no cooking happening. If I would have cooked, it probably wouldn't have not included a vegetable tonight.
A vegetable, yeah. But I think we have to teach our children that, because as we say, they're in such a microwave society. They want it and they want it now, and they don't know how to cope. when things don't go their way.
Come on.
They don't know how to cope. So we have to be that example to show, okay, well, I ain't cooked today. We'll cook tomorrow. We'll try again tomorrow. Let's make these PB&Js and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm. I want to say something kind of piggybacking off of what both of you said. This chapter, of course, all of the chapters were important to me for a specific reason. This quote is one of my favorite quotes. It's from one of my most favorite African-American figures, Toni Morrison. You want to fly? You got to give up the shit that weighs you down. And with that, like Tracy was saying, like life often does not go the way we plan. Like I think about like for those of us who have been super committed or committed even to church, and you think about that moment when you get saved and you finally decided to be serious about God, you on fire for God, you know, you ready to dive in, you super zealous, you know, you going the whole nine, and you like, oh, life is about to be great. When you leave church that Sunday, you know, you got a whole new air about yourself, you on cloud nine, you just ready to take on the world. And then of course, as life would have it, you get hit with all these challenges, you know, kind of testing your faith on a level that you probably hadn't experienced before, you know, and we kind of, as babies in the church, you know, you go in thinking, once I make up my mind to change my life, like life is going to be awesome. And that's rarely the case. And I think we can find any area in life, probably whether it's career, whether it's parenting, relationships, you know, where when you're in the trenches and you're going through and you finally get that second win, or maybe even that first breath of courage, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to take this on. I'm ready to change. You know, I'm ready to be intentional about my outcome. You know, rarely does it go the way that you want it to. But once you realize, okay, this didn't work out the way I thought it would, this didn't even start the way I thought it would, now that my mind has changed, you're right, Adrienne, you got to give yourself grace. In the second paragraph, I wrote, I would challenge even my own thinking. And that's something that is super, super hard. Like even now, you know, in a different stage, in a different season in life, I still constantly have to, you know, sometimes bring my thoughts under subjection, and not spiritual thinking, you know, just remembering to be positive when I'm pissed off, or when I'm feeling down, or when I'm weighed down and I'm tired, or I'm discouraged, something didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. I got to give myself grace. And a little bit after that, I said, I was a woman who had made some bad decisions, because that's important. We got to be accountable. We got to accept our part in our undoing, or in our setbacks or downfalls or mistakes, whatever it is. But even with that, you got to give yourself the grace to say, okay, I've made these bad decisions, but guess what? It's not too late for me to make good on it. I can turn this thing around. And that makes me think about the socks, the plot twist socks. We was just talking about your socks. Like those socks are so important to me, because that's really like the theme of this book. Like at any point in our lives, we can decide, okay, I done had enough of this plot. I'm about to take this thing in a different direction.
100% agree. I think that your next line that was talking about you were self-reflecting, because self-reflection is that big thing that helps us change our mindset. When you were talking about going to church, I immediately thought about weight loss, because I swear every Sunday I'm like, this is going to be the week. I am not going to eat chocolate. And then I get to work and I open up the third drawer in my file cabinet where I hide snacks. And I'm like, it's been a rough day. I need a Lindor's, you know, but every Sunday I start over. And then this week I tried something different. I was like, okay, let's self-reflect. What is the problem with me having these chocolates in the third drawer? I need to take these chocolates out, not put them in the trash, because I ain't nobody's fool. I need to take them and put them inside. I mean, in the second part of my office, so that I don't have immediate access to it.
Mhm.
It's something that I have to work to get towards. But I am still extending myself grace in doing that, because I know that it's accessible, but it's not like if I'm on the phone with a parent, I can open this drawer, pull it out, get to it. I would have to wait, be able to take the time to self-reflect, and then make a change. Right. So I think that is what that self-reflection part is. But then when you said, I in need of myself to choose life over death, that is powerful. Because I think about that even in weight loss and church and everything. Like, am I making the right decisions? Am I reflecting to make the right decisions for my future and not just for right now?
Yes, that's real. Like, I don't think we realize when we allow things to consume us, how it tears away at us, and how it continues to beat us down. And I think, if not us wholly, I think a little bit of our joy, is dying, that's where that miserableness comes from, and then it becomes, just an existence. I'm just going day by day. I'm just trying to get through each day. I haven't experienced real joy. And the thing is, we can't experience real joy until we allow ourselves to be stripped and feel that true desperation of whatever that situation is that is chopping away at us. Like, you got to allow yourself to deal with some stuff, some ugly stuff, some dirty stuff, some uncomfortable stuff. And it's uncomfortable to be accountable for some of our decisions. The reality of my situation is, I was in a situationship. I had no business being in a situationship. I had all the signs, and I can blame it on being young and dumb, because I was young and living life and thought I had it going on. And I had one of the most popular dudes on the yard, and it was amazing until it wasn't. And I could very well blame it on, oh, well, I was just young. I didn't know any better. And that's true to a certain extent. But in order to truly grow from the situation, I've got to be accountable for my part in it. And that's ugly. That's uncomfortable. It does not feel good. And so I had to kind of even allow that kind of death, a little bit, just so I can build myself back up. And that's where that grace comes in that Adrian was talking about. Like, you got to give yourself grace. We don't make the best decisions sometimes, especially when we're young and in our late teens and early 20s. We're still trying to figure out who we are. We're still really just want to have fun. We ain't really deeply thinking about, life down the line. We have our goals and dreams, but it ain't really that serious enough for me not to have fun. And sometimes, you don't always do the best thinking and make the best decisions. So own it, give yourself grace, realize that you don't want to die in that state, that you want to grow from it, and you want to, be your better self and get out of it. That's what that release is about. Like, you got to make some tough decisions. You got to have some tough conversations with yourself and figure out, okay, I wasn't in the situation too. And that's okay, but the good news is, I was able to have the courage to figure out how I can turn it around and allow it to work for my good. And like I said, make good of the situation, That's to be praised.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's in those dirty situations, those tough down and out situations, that really build us up as women and make us who we are. And I can only speak for me, not necessarily being in this type of situation, but just things growing up, looking back on it. Some days I'm like, I wish that would have never happened. And some days, if it had not happened, would I be who I am had it not happened? And I'm not saying that you look back on your situation and think that, because it may be different, but I know for me, it's through those down and out where I'm praying and crying to God, help me get through this. And just reflecting back, I'm like, well, you know what? Would I be as strong as I am, if these things hadn't happened? So I look at it from that perspective, like you got to go through and be in those tough situations to realize, okay, I don't ever want to make this mistake again. I don't want anybody else to have to deal with this, because, you know, had you not gone through your test, you wouldn't have your testimony.
Come on now.
Speak.
So, you know, so for anybody who read the book, it's got a message for everybody.
Okay. Yes, and that was definitely a part of the goal. Like, even though, like I said, my heart is always going to be for single moms, because I've been there, and you know, I've taken, you know, a lot of, you know, my name being made, you know, drug in the mud, and a lot of single moms deal with that, and so that's definitely my heart. But outside of that, but alongside that, no less important, like, we know that anything we go through, you know, it doesn't feel like it when you're in it,
Right.
but anything we go through, you know, is shaping us and molding us to be able to help the next person. You know, one of the things that I have shared probably with all of y'all and most close people in my life, like when I was going through it, I felt like nobody could relate to what I was specifically dealing with. And that's a lonely place to be in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a single mom to know what it feels like, you know, to be treated like crap, you know, to be lied on constantly, you know, to try your best to be the bigger person in a situation and still constantly, you know, catch, you know, and you're still trying to be the bigger person, knowing that you could, you know, you could be just as petty, just as low down as the next person, probably even more so, because I'm an Aquarius. But, you know, I want to do better. You know, I want to do better for my child. And like, like I said, you don't have to be a single parent or a single mom, you know, to know what it feels like to kind of really allow yourself to be in the underdog position when you really could be the bully in the position. You know, anybody can relate to that. If you've been through any type of situation where you're dealing with adversary, then you can get some type of hope, some type of relation, some type of advice from my story.
I 100% agree. One thing that I felt like this was going to be a touchy subject for me, that you talked about, was your mom, you know, and I know that a lot of people have a hard time recording anything that they say about their mom. So we're going to tread lightly. But I do think that
let's go. I'm open.
I underlined too. But when you said, however, my mom was a woman who lived in a constant state of lack. I mean, a constant state of financial stretch and lack. I feel like a lot of people can really relate to that when they have the same type of story or live the same type of life. You said she danced with worry as a single parent. And I know that worry has been something that has riddled my life constantly, especially as a single mama, been wondering, okay, how am I going to take care of this? Or when my account gets overdrawn, like, what am I going to do next? Who can I run to? You know, so it really did like touch a place within me that I could really truly relate to. Like, it was tough to read, but it was good reflection for me.
That's fair. When I was writing what I wrote about both of my parents, but definitely about my mom, initially I thought about reaching out to two of my siblings, my sister and my brother. We have a really close relationship. Y'all know Thad and Kim. And I initially thought about having them read it, you know, and asking, you know, what do y'all think about this? You know, do you think that, you know, would she, you know, feel like, you know, be upset with about this, or, you know, because you see things like on TV and with celebrities when they come out with books about their life or their upbringing, you know, and then you have family members who don't agree with the stuff that they put in it. But I ended up not asking them or not saying anything, because one of the things that I now realize as an adult is that, and especially as an adult who has dealt with some ugly things, and being grateful and thankful that I am on the other side, you can't speak for me about my own experience. You know, we all had, yes, we come from the same mom, but your relationship, your experience with her is not mine.
Took the words right out of my mouth, because when you said you was going to ask your siblings, I was going to say, but they not your, this is told from your perspective, how you felt during that time. Not to say y'all didn't go through the same experiences, but still.
Right. And I felt like it wouldn't be fair. I felt like it wouldn't be fair to my readers and to anybody who I wanted to impact, you know, in a positive way, who was going through something. Because the reality is, no matter how you try to paint it, you know, and of course we can overcome and we can grow from whatever our origin story is, but that does have a lot to do with who we are as individuals. And a part of me healing and understanding what I went through, I had to go there. Like, I had to visit that. It would not even be fair to my baby daddy, if we being real for real. You know, it wouldn't be fair for me to, you know, put all the weight on him when he really does not own all the weight. You know, I have a percentage in that, you know, and a part of that percentage is what I saw. What were the benchmarks that were set for me, you know, because our benchmarks do determine some of the things that we allow ourselves to engage in. Now, that's not always the case, of course, you know, because once we become an age of accountability, like, we make our own decisions, yes. And sometimes we just say, I don't care what the repercussions is. I just want to do this. And that doesn't have anything to do with your upbringing. But if I'm going to heal for real, then I got to go back and look at some of that background information to better understand myself. Now, of course, my mom was a superhero to me. You know, like, one of the things that I said a few lines down from that, like, my mom truly stood as a giant, towering over everything she had to deal with. Like, I have always felt that way about her. She knew a lot of struggle. She knew a lot of hard times. And so she was a hero to me. But if I'm being fair in my assessment of her, there were some things there, some negative things, even though she's my mama and even though I'm Black, you know, because a lot of times in our community, we feel like we can't truly assess our parents and not be wrong or out of line. Now, of course, I wanted to make sure that I did it in a respectful manner. But again, if I'm ministering to anybody who are flipping through these pages, I have to be honest, and I got to be willing to touch some things. That was, again, one of those things about this topic and this book that I really wanted to do. Like, these conversations, these topics in this book are topics that we oftentimes don't like to touch. And so I had to go there with her. And so I decided, okay, I'm not going to ask them. I'm going to do what I feel like will be an honest assessment of my mom, but still, of course, be respectful.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
But I think that one thing that you keep saying is your part in taking accountability for what happened in your situationship, you know, and in your life. And I think that's very important for all readers, all people who take the time to read the book, to know is that you're not placing the blame. You are taking responsibility for your part in everything that you went through. And I think that that's powerful. And that does show growth, because I know that when I was young, I did stuff and then would not take accountability for it and place the blame on other people. However, now that I am wiser and of a mature age, I have to take responsibility for my action in any situation that I'm in. So I think that's powerful. you referenced your students and how you show mistakes to them and how that's important. I'm sure that you did that with your son as well. Talk to us a little bit about some ways that you show your son how important it is to take responsibility for our actions and situations.
Oh, Lord. He's a teenager in high school who hates school. So he has so many opportunities, Lord, to learn the lesson of being accountable. More specifically, of course, outside of our situation as him being the man child of a single mom. Of course, I mean, he's a grown boy now. Thank God I haven't had any behavior issues with him. He's very mild mannered. But like I said, he has never liked school. He is extremely creative. He's a very creative being. But with that, he doesn't really have a strong interest in the academic side. Very smart, very capable, does well when he wants to. But, there are always those times when, it's 9 or 10 assignments that he haven't turned in. And of course, we know how that goes. Okay, you did that. You made that choice to do that. So guess what? There are consequences for our actions. And so you're going to lose your whole little animation setup you got in there. Because, of course, if we don't teach them how to be accountable for our actions, the streets will, life will. I've made it a point, my way of discipline, be it a lot traditional, probably what my mom wouldn't agree with, and some of my siblings either. I talk to him. I talk to him a lot. I have always talked to him. I make sure that he understands if you're getting in trouble, this is what you're getting in trouble for. Do you understand? When I'm chastising him, when I'm talking to him, we got to have a conversation too. This is not just going to be punishment. I'm not just going to get on to you when he was young and little and getting whippings. I'm not just going to whip you. We got to talk about some things because you need to be able to understand your part in it and how you making a different decision could have produced a different outcome.
I know we're all mothers on this call. Does anybody else have any feedback on that? Just holding your children accountable and letting them know that we take responsibility for our actions and they have to do the same.
I feel like the part where she was talking about how when she said, I give my child a punishment, they have a consequence, but it's not probably going to be like my parent would have done. I do understand that situation. From growing up in the household that I grew up in, there's some things that I was like, yeah, I don't really want to go that route with my children. But as you already know, in our society, that there's a lot of things that get brushed under rugs and things we don't get talked to about. And I feel that as we are older and we know better, we do better. And so we are going to show our children what they actually should be doing. And I've seen a lot of progress with communicating better with our children in this day and age. And so I do understand that. I do that and I support that. I don't know if that answers your question, Tracy, but I just wanted to put that out.
Yes, that was a great, you answered that perfectly. And one of the things that I want to add to, like you said, communicating better with our kids. One of the things that I have been intentional about with Jaden is apologizing. Because sometimes we be mad and we be upset and we might, think a little faster. We don't really give it time to process, and we fly off the handle. and respond in a way that maybe we would normally respond in because we're just so upset. This probably the fourth or fifth time I'm talking to you about the same thing, and now I'm yelling because I'm pissed off. You're pissing me off at this point.
And not even that, sometimes you may catch yourself sliding into the tradition of your childhood. It was like, I catch myself all the time being like into something and doing my work. And they were like, Mom, no, don't even know what it is you want to ask me, but the answer is no. And then I have to catch myself like, dang, hey, sorry. What is it that you said? I'm sorry. That wasn't what I meant to say. It just came out of my mouth. So yeah, that whole apology thing, I feel you on that one too.
But I also think go ahead, Denise, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, because I am not a yes mom. I'm definitely a no mom because it just comes out way too easy.
But I think what y'all said is important because, again, looking at how our children communicate, if they communicate, it's via text. They don't have conversations like we did. We didn't have phones. We had, wasn't until high school we had all the technology that they have now. And it's like, so you're also teaching them how to communicate, how you should talk things out. Whereas, like you said, in a traditional setting, parents wouldn't say anything because I said so, period. No questions asked. But I think you're creating that safe space also. So if there ever is a problem, that open communication is there. So they may be hesitant, but they know, okay, mom sits down and talks to me about these things. So I should be able to come to her and talk to her about this situation that I'm in or whatnot. So I think it's good because we have to set our children up for success because eventually they're going to leave, our little nest, and we want them to communicate, not send a text or an email.
And some of y'all have kids who are about to leave like tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Stressed and worried.
Tomorrow's a little exaggeration. However, it's like 2022 graduates. If you have one, raise your hand. 2022. Yes, not I. I don't have one. But y'all, I find myself, and I'm gonna leave this subject alone, but I think this is something that I would love to hear from all of y'all. I find myself asking me, because I remember my mom would fuss at me on Monday. She probably wouldn't talk to me till Wednesday. I find myself like, should I still be upset about this? Should I be talking to him right now? But I really do need him to go downstairs and get the remote. But I'm exaggerating with that. But for real, how long, after I've had the conversation with you, I've talked to you about this multiple times. This is like the 6th time we've talked about this. And I'm still a little upset, but I find myself having to be like, okay, you've got to get over this because anything could happen. Now that I'm 40, it's like tomorrow is not promised to you. You got to let people know what you feel, and then you've got to move past it. You can't stay in that anger and that frustration with anybody, not your children's parents, not your kid, not your mama if they're still with us, not your father if he's still with you. You have to get past those things. So I find myself I just fussed at my child, what was that, Friday? And I was like, you on punishment. By Sunday, I was like, okay, now we talked about it. I wrote a little poem for you. Read it, put it on your wall. I don't care what you do with it, but let's move on. I don't believe in being upset forever. I said my piece. And if it's not working, if I don't say it 6 times, it's something I'm doing that ain't working. So I need to find something else. Punishment and whippings don't work around here. I'm still working.
Right. Oh, when Jaden was little, Lord, it was barely anything I could do to punish that child because he had this huge imagination. So anything could become a toy. It was me and him all the time. So he didn't need other kids.
And when you on punishment.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, times has changed. So you can't punish them like we used to get punished. Like you said, they're into electronics now. The TV, YouTube, the phone, the iPad, I've never really gotten that mad But I know a couple times where I've had to ground my oldest, and it was just, give me your phone, and that right there just was like,
Yeah, that's all
death.
you
You take somebody's phone away for a whole weekend, it's death to them, or a whole week. They don't know how to function. Like, they getting on your nerves. You like, you know what? Take your phone and go. Like, get away from me. I don't want to see you. Go here. Punishment over.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
find
just,
it funny. Yeah, I find it funny when we do that here, that if we do it as a whole for all three of our kids, that how quick it becomes, everybody, let's go into somebody's all together, go in one room together and socialize. And I'm like, do you hear that? Are they all the in the room? And are they sounding like they're having fun? Like, maybe we should do this more often. Because I promise you, they act like they can't stand each other when they have something to occupy their time. But as soon as everybody and the whole house is shut down, internet's off, because that's how we do over here. Everybody done. We're done. Don't give me a reason to cut off my computer because I don't even care. I'd be like, I'm good. But it's so funny how the kids decide they want to come together to come up and make up games or talk to each other or watch something together. It's like, oh, watching Little House on the Prairie. Who does this? Well, where do these kids come from?
Yeah, my kids are like that too. Like, they were running up and down the steps playing with the dog. Like, they will find, it's like, well, I need to take it more often because you realize you can't survive without it.
Right. So before we go on to chapter 5, I want to just kind of highlight where I ended chapter 4. Because I think that would be a good takeaway. And I won't read the whole little paragraph. But I do want to highlight the part that says, if it takes reaffirming yourself 10 times a day, do it. Do it until it is embedded in your being. Do it until you start to feel yourself grow wings. I think that that's important because a lot of times, kind of like at the beginning of the chapter, if we don't see immediate results, it's easy for us to give up, or even stop for a long while before we start back. But it's going to take us building some endurance if we're going to, get past anything, really, anything that's holding us back. And that's the only way we're going to be able to reach some type of release.